What up, Tim?
Speaking of bots, we call them
You got the
agents
bot
around
man
here.
himself.
We call them agents in this part of town. How
Well,
you guys?
let's good man. Excited to have you on. Appreciate you jumping on
Yeah,
last
good to see
minute. So
you
you're
all.
the founder of Bracky Game and Bracky, which are products reimagining and socializing sports betting. Also a C Club portfolio company, just to make sure that's clear. Uh,
Disclaimer.
so sports betting is obviously a crowded and very well served market, as you guys know well as longtime sports fans and bettors. So what gave you guys conviction that there is something to reinvent here?
Um, yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I call it like the um uh like uncle on the couch phenomenon. Like I have this scene in mind of like Christmas or Thanksgiving, and like you have one uncle who made a sports bet, and they're just like fuck the line. They're just going crazy, right? And yeah, right. Yes, this guy. And what's really fun is like everybody's kind of bored at the family party, right? And you have the one uncle who's like locked in yelling at the screen. And then all of a sudden, like your cousins and like, one of your aunts and everybody starts to trickle into that room because like something fun is happening there. And like for me that phenomenon of like now everybody, some people are like cheering with your uncle, some people are trolling him, and like everybody's having fun around this game. And um I think that like that for me is totally uncaptured, totally like unrecreated space within like how does sports betting, how can it actually make it more fun for everybody who's just sort of like genuinely wants to be part of this great, exciting event that we're all watching live together? Um, so yeah, I'd say that the to sum it up, like I think sports betting companies are have gotten really good at financializing people who are maybe already um, uh, interested in or prone to this type of behavior, but seem to have done like a really bad job of reaching out to just like casual enjoyers of sports and making the experience of sports like super fun to them. And that's what we've been working on now for like a couple of years.
So you guys made a pretty big pivot over the last year from this bracket-based app
Yeah.
product that I think many people got to experience in various forms, from golf to basketball to beer pong. I think beer pong was one of
Beer
my
pong,
favorites too. Yeah,
pickleball.
all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Into focusing on Bracky, which is this sort of agentic bookie, I guess, or this
Yeah.
chat-based experience. I'm curious, what was the thinking behind that? What drove the shift?
Yeah. So it I think when we full circle this, like uh brackets still going to be a big part of what we do, but I think like in terms of figuring out how to bring that experience to market, the agent was like a really really important discovery for us. But like to take people back to like what bracket is and what it was like what we did a couple of years ago, starting with March Madness, is that like we just turned every sporting event into like a live stock market. So it's like we launched for March Madness in 2024, and it was just like imagine you're watching March Madness instead of just the office pool. You open up bracket.game and you just see all of the teams listed with just like different prices next to them. And you can just tap on a team and like buy shares of them. And then if the team starts to lose or they're getting eliminated, you're selling your shares. So we were just like, wouldn't it be fun if the office pool for March Madness didn't end when you submitted that piece of paper, but just like kept going throughout the event. And so that was really fun. Like we ended up having like a prize pool that was like 4 times bigger than ESPN's. I think it got up to like 500,000 USD value. So it was just like crazy experience, super fun. Um, because we built it like primarily in the Farcaster community, there was also this just like social element of like a lot of people knew each other and we were showing who made what trades in the app. And it's like, I can't believe like Josh rugged UConn. Like I thought we were in this together. like these sorts of like who's riding together, who's rugging, like what's happening, like I can't believe you paper hand, like a lot of that trading stuff around sports and social. And so we ran this stock market, this bracket, kind of a stock market for sports events and live trading. Um, for a year on all kinds of different events. And like a really fun thing we did, as you mentioned, like we were putting it on like real life events. So like we threw a pickleball tournament at Farcaster with this, also with some other awesome people, Kojo from Ponder. And this was like everybody was standing on the side of like amateurs playing pickleball, like trading, who was going to win that thing, right? So like we watched like this light up, this amazing, like the people who were playing were like, I've never experienced like that, anything like that, right? Like the last time anybody watched me do something, I was in like 8th grade, on the basketball court, right? Like they're all having a great time. And so we saw this ability of this stuff to activate really fun experiences around sports events. But what was really hard, right? And what is super hard in this time is just like, how do you, like people who were in it loved it, right? And Farcaster, like there's a lot of people who are experimental. And so like we had this great density there. But like trying to bring new people into this new space and to have this new experience, it's just really hard, right? Like even though people loved it and they were bringing their friends in, even when we land them on the site, it's just non-trivial to get people onboarded and get people going in a net new experience. And so like we really were convinced that we were onto something with like the live and the social and these bringing it to life, and just like people who are like, I didn't even like sports before this and I love it. That's what we want. Like that's our gold. It's not the whale trader. It's the person who said, I didn't even like March Madness until I did bracket. I didn't even, that's what we're going for. And so the agent Bracky is about taking everything that we learned around like social and live trading experience of sports and bringing that directly into each social space in its context as it already exists, right? So what that looks like is you just say at Bracky, you know, I want to like I want to fade the Yankees. Like I fucking hate the Yankees, right? You. This is many such cases, right? So like you put that in Farcaster on the base app, and like soon in the fall on Twitter, you could think of this in Telegram, World, Discord, right? You say that in a space where Bracky lives, and Bracky comes and says, "Great, like you want to short the Yankees? Like here's the current market price." You can just say yes, right? You can book that directly wherever you are, right? We'll load you with like all bets and Bracky are booked in the Bracky token. So we have this great like acquisition lever where we give people their first Bracky in a server wallet, right? So that they can just start betting and feed without having to sign up for anything, without having to go anywhere. It's just a magical, like I was talking about the Yankees, Bracky came in, he gave me the market. I just said yes. Now I've got this bet. And if they want to trade it, if they want to involve their friends, like, and so all this is happening like in these social spaces. And so that's our big bet. Like we think of Bracky, like there's a lot of other interesting things about agents, like a lot of directions we can talk about. But I think the really interesting bet here is like making our experience compatible with a public facing agent who can live in the different social contexts where people already are, instead of trying to recreate that from scratch ourselves.
Yeah, I keep seeing Shane from XMTP talk about how fun it is to bet with Bracky in a group chat, which I think is this kind of newly possible thing with XMTP and Base Wallet. Like what's he so excited about? Like why does he? I think he was raving about it on our show. I see him on the timeline all the time talking about how Bracky's convincing him to make $1 million bets or $1 million Bracky token bets.
Yeah. So in addition to like, we have Bracky living in the public feed, and that's what we've been working on really since like January, testnet for Super Bowl and then March Madness. The more intimate experiences, I think, getting closer to the like on the couch with my buddies or on the couch with my family, right? Like if you take that into a group chat, that's an incredibly loaded social context that's super fun, right? And so I think that the possibilities there of what you can do with Bracky, bringing in to trade, like when you're talking about sports with your friends, Bracky can just kind of silently be there until you want him to be involved. And you can do fun stuff like it's not just betting, but it's like who's right. You know what I mean? Like Bracky's very opinionated and does like kind of his own analysis about the different sports, but like who's right? Like are the Yankees or the Red Sox better this year? Right? Like, the friends talking shit, you can also turn that into a bet, turn money in the game. I think there's really exciting things about kind of just these local like smaller betting pools that friends do with each other that can be facilitated by Bracky. So I think group messaging opens up a new and powerful social context where people are already talking about sports. Um, I think what's also really interesting about it, the most interesting thing to me, is that there's a lot of casual fans who are really comfortable with being in group chats. They have one with their family, they have one with their buddies, they have one with their lunch group. They aren't A lot of those people aren't as comfortable being on public feeds like a lot of us might be. And so like we think that like Twitter is like a really big top of funnel right now to have the agent public in feed. But like what's really fun about building with Shane and on XM2P and on the base app is that like when I want to bring my dad and his friends in to use Bracky together, I'm never going to get them onto Farcaster and I'm never going to get them onto Twitter, but I can get them in a group chat, right? It's like download base. It's like the crypto app store. It's made by Coinbase, right? Come in here, click on the little text message bubble. That's where you have your group chats. I'll be in there. You can bring your friends in. Bracky's in there. That feels like something that's like a really familiar kind of place to have this new experience. And like I think that that's the part. There's a lot of stuff you can do in that social context, but to me what's exciting about it is that everybody's familiar with text group threads. And so like building something that works in that space feels like a very viable onboarding experience for like non-crypto, non-tech natives.
So one of the interesting, and maybe the last question before we bring up our next guest, one of the interesting discussion points we've had, one has been the sort of public-private, and I definitely feel myself being much more comfortable in the group chat experience, so I'm
Yeah.
very bullish on that. The other is sort of around this idea of agents and personalities, right? I think on one side, maybe you have just pure utility agents. I just don't want any smart ass comments. I just want them to go do the thing all the time when
Yep.
I tell them to go do the thing.
Yep.
The other is that there is some, personality and let's maybe call it brand at the high level that is ultimately the thing that you build affinity with. I know you have
Yes.
strong opinions on this. I wonder if you can share those with us.
Yep. So look, my really strong opinion here is that like if if you if you build your agent to feel like a better version of a chatbot, it's always going to be a chatbot for people, right? So like think about how much you hate being in Delta chat and picking yes or no and like all that aesthetic around it. If if the agent feels like it's built to be a slave and a tool for everybody who's interacting with it, that's always what it's going to be, no matter how good the tech gets. If the agent feels that it's something like your peer living with you in these different spaces, that's the interesting future. That's definitely where we're going, right? So like even if the tech isn't always quite there, like we made the really decisive bet early on that we're going to build Bracky to feel like an independent, motivated, autonomous entity. And we even treat Bracky like that internally when we're building him. And that's the reason he has a pronoun, right? Like for me, it's about let's go into making this a being, right? And I think the tech's going to get there. And so like what's really interesting is a future where agents are living with us as like peers and super peers in all these different spaces, right? And like I think that that's the place where we want to skate to and like kind of what we want to aspire to build. Because if you think about it, like tools, you don't have affinity for tools, but you certainly have affinity for your friends and the people you work with and the people you collaborate with. And so it's like, as just a design decision, it's really important. And what we've been excited about is just like seeing people enjoy, we invest a lot in Bracky's memory, but enjoy just bantering with Bracky, right? Like, what do you think about the Red Sox games? And Bracky knows that they're your favorite team. And there's like having an interesting exchange around that. I think that there's a lot of craft that goes into making something that feels viable there, but like, we strongly believe that like that's where the interesting future and interesting moat is.
Yeah, maybe just one last question then. One additional last question. Are you sort of approaching Bracky and Bracket? You sort of said there's going to be a full circle moment.
Yeah.
How do those two come back together?
Yeah. So Bracky is essentially, if you think about that first thing, it's like a stock market and it's live trading on the event that's social. That's Bracket. Bracky's just doing that like for any social space to help people meet them where they are. If you think about, hey, like I don't want to book every trade through Bracky. It will be faster to just tap the trades that I want to make when I'm watching the game. That's Bracket. That's the thing that we already built. That's the thing that we already love. But like for us, it's totally different. If you're used to using Bracky and you're like, hey, I'm sick of doing all this through an agent. I want to do the power version of that experience. So we think of Bracket as like the home and the power trading terminal for this experience for people who get really into it, while also having Bracky out there able to facilitate like within the spaces people already live.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Tim. You can go give Bracky a try right now on Farcaster at Bracky. You can see him on Twitter, I think. But I know you guys have plans to bring him out of the Farcaster ecosystem soon.
NFL football season, baby. Bracky's coming to X. But yeah, just hit me up. I'm TLDR _X on Twitter. If you want an invite to like, or just like to help me get you started on Farcaster, come in and we'll get you started. It's a lot of fun.
Amazing. Thanks for jumping on, brother.
Later, guys. Good to see y'all.